Oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. What a game that was, or what an ending to a game that was, I guess, rather than what a game, because boy, we came out of the traps well with some cool stuff early on. We then kind of lost our way, let's be honest, folks. But we evened things up and went into Golden Point. And boy, oh boy, we had last minute kicks. We had all sorts of stuff going on. And joining me to talk about some of that stuff is Ashwin. How you doing, sir?
Oh, not too bad, not too bad. Yourself?
Oh, well, yes, a bit breathless. I'm trying to remember what
Yeah.
actually happened now. It's
I know, it is like that. It's just like, hang on, what happened in the game?
because it all happened in that last 10 minutes,
Yeah.
really, basically.
Am I
Um,
allowed to jump to the 87th minute or whatever it was when the kick went off, when the penalty was given?
what the 87th minute is still happening? That's post-match interviews. 84th minute is when the is when
When
it
the
was won
penalty was
by
given.
D-Mac. If that's go on, then jump to that.
Because, well, they got the penalty wrong.
Yeah, tell me his hands went past the ball,
His
came
hands
back.
went so past the ball. The hands went past the ball, and then he got pulled back onto it and got there. It was so wrong. It's a classic. It's actually a classic example. It's a great, going forward in the annals of history, they'll use that for referee training when they will show this is the incorrect way for a player, or a penalizable offence where the player's hands go past the ball, not on the ball.
Well, he got away with it, and that was it. And we've got some unhappy fans, Landers fans, on Periscope already. With Go Willie 83 complaining that the Highlanders were poor, and Josh Hunt. No, not Josh Hunt. Got blank. Mitchell Hunt was
The bastard child of Joshuani and Josh Hunt.
Was poor. Well, look. This was a game that, for me, there were some moments of real nice play from the Highlanders in this game, and then there was big spaces between hand where it wasn't so nice. That opening try from them, where the set call move with the line out, coming back round, and putting Lenchies down the blind side. The commitment of Frizzell to say I'm carrying the ball and dummy run was pretty impressive. And then for Lenchies to go over and score, and that was a lovely set move. I was going to bring Stephen.
Bring here. Stephen. Evening, Steve.
Evening, guys. How you doing?
Oh, good.
Yeah, I'd have to say, you're right. It was a brilliant set move. Much comment has been made, not just in this game, but in previous games, how the Highlanders actually just haven't got them all going this year. So the fact that they were able to suck in all that Chiefs defense, throw the dummy pass to Frizzell, as you said, ran with commitment that made it really feel like he's taking the ball, and then Lynchies turns the other way, and he makes a good call. He has, I think it was Dixon on the outside that he could have passed to, but he basically took the gap, and then I think it was Brad Weber, piggyback Brad Weber to the try line.
I think there were moments like that which were really good from the Highlanders, and then there were moments like, "Hey, we've scored. We can switch off." Oh no, they've scored back again. Just about every single time during this. They admittedly they didn't do it off that scrum, but in the second half, you're like, "Oh, they've evened things up. Oh no, they've given away another penalty. Oh, they've evened things up. Oh, they've given another penalty." The only reason, even at the end there, they gave away a penalty that D-Mac could have kicked to score, but he missed it.
Two of them, because they had the option there of the wide out one on the 15 out, or the one in the middle of halfway. So there were two penalties in that.
And he had that missed drop goal as well. So he had three opportunities to win that game at the end there, or 12 opportunities, sorry, but two to win the game at the end there. So the Highlanders really have got no one else but themselves to blame for this one. As Go Willie says, look, Mitch Hunt's general play wasn't that bad. I mean, okay, I think he had one kick out on the full, but his kicking from the tee was absolutely poor. Let's be blunt. It's just if you've got a guy, I mean, he made his first kick on 54 minutes. That was it. He was 1 from 5 at that stage. Is there no one else on that pitch that can kick? or should they have got Josh Ioane on earlier and said, look, Josh, get on there and kick goals, because Mitch tonight can't hit
Is
the
off.
side of a barn door.
Yep. Diamonds one week, rocks the next.
Stephen, what are your thoughts on pulling a kicker?
He's going to say that Stephen Gregory could have been kicking. Sorry.
No, not Stephen Gregory. I'm trying to figure out who that is.
No, Scott.
I think I do. In all honesty, guys, what I actually saw from the Highlanders in the first half, they were actually playing rugby in a lot of short, very, very short channels with switches. So you actually never saw much ball movement through the actual midfield. And it actually wasn't until Josh Ioane actually came into the game, which we'll get to a little bit later, Paul, where we actually saw a little bit more creativity from the Highlanders. So I really do wonder if the coaches got their midfield pairing absolutely wrong in terms of Tompkinson and Gregory. I mean, Gregory at second five, Tompkinson at centre, because Gregory looked really better when he moved to actually centre. But to me, they just lacked a little bit of creativity around that second five, first pivot area. And maybe they should have had both Ioane and Hunt on the paddock, guys.
Well, that's what they've done earlier in the season, isn't it?
Last season they tried Josh at 12. Early this season they had one of them at 15 and one of them at 10.
Yeah. That's what but they had both of them on the pitches. Effectively two first fives on the pitch.
But with Connor Cotton Basham going so well, it's hard to see. It's hard to leave him out, and it'd be harsh to leave him out. So you got to say that it was kind of right there. Jordan says Mitch Clark says Mitch's got to work in his consistency. It's definitely in his goal kicking. But to be fair, look, I mean, Dave McKenzie wasn't great kicking sticks either. So I don't know what it's indoors. It's something that they should be used to, but somehow, for some reason, it was just they just both had shockers at goal, and you kind of that left you sort of wondering as to would you actually try and kick a penalty at the death to try and win it? The Chiefs did, and they missed. But Stephen,
guys, something I actually saw in Mitch Hunt's technique, he actually only takes 2 or 3 very short steps back, and
actually about 2.
Like to me, it really hardly gives you yourself opportunity to actually find a little bit of rhythm in the actual run up. And like one of the kicks, I think he just, to me, it was almost like his legs made contact with the ball in the wrong place, and it was always going to the right. So no, definitely an off night at the office for all the kickers. It's an irony that the actual winning of the game actually comes from a half.
Came down to a penalty.
Yeah, it came down to a penalty at the end of the day.
Steve, just what Aaron's saying there. I mean, going back, kicking's gotten better in the Tupperware container, but when they first started playing at the stadium, there were issues with kickers. They struggled big time at that stadium.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Well, you've got
Kieran Paul.
I'm going to say Marty McKenzie had no problems kicking down there.
Yeah.
Brother of Damo.
Actually, ironically, there were a couple of really good kicks from Damien McKenzie. One from a sideline conversion, I think it was, or sideline penalty, which he struck reasonably well. No, but both goal kickers up.
Sorry, Marty Banks. What did I say, Marty McKenzie? Marty Banks had like a 22 goal kicking, didn't he? Not Marty McKenzie. Marty Banks.
22 in a row or whatever it was.
Yeah.
Actually, no, you're right. But Damien McKenzie tonight started off fantastically well, because Nanai Saturo actually scored right in the corner, and that was a fantastic try, actually. It was a really good try. Well taken. But that was right in the corner, and McKenzie banged that over from the touchline.
And that was a lesson of get the ball quickly out the ruck. Webber goes blind, sucks in the defender, and then releases from the tackle. And Satoro, real good dive in the corner there.
Good finish.
A good finish, but I guess kind of what we're expecting of kind of wingers nowadays. But hey, it's still impressive when they do it.
Would have been, you have to say, they scored that try. Obviously, the Highlanders came back with the try we've talked about with Talenchis. Would have been really interesting if they hadn't have seen, or there wasn't a knock on in the aerial contest before the Chiefs went over. For that disallow, that could have been quite a big shift in the game at that time. The Chiefs were actually getting they were making more hay with whilst the sun was shining with the ball in hand that they did have, and they converted that really quite nicely. And unfortunately, had to come back. Quite clear knock on in the air, and it actually at the time it happened, it looked like it was a knock on as well. So, Rob, I mean, I don't know, but debatable whether they should let play go on for so long before pulling it back. I've always been one for with the extended advantages for penalties, for example. Penalty advantages can go on for a couple of minutes, right? That time is never put back on the clock. So that time is just basically lost in the game. And that's a good example where there was probably about 7 rucks that went. I think might have been Brad Weber was sort of mentioned 7 rucks that might have come through in the commentary. And it's just like, well, that's a fair chunk of time that you've now said never happened in the game, but you don't roll the clock back.
Hey, why can't the ref go check, and the TMO looks at it while play's going and says, guys, stop play now and go back, guys, because he only took to replay, so it was obvious once you looked at the replay. So tell him to say check and go look at it while play's happening. To cover. But we had a couple of players who Tompkinson, again, look, his tackle height is just so wrong. I think he got away with one, but it says he only gave away one penalty in the stats. But he is always someone who looks like he's going to give away penalties.
Yep, and then obviously we had Mitch Brown tonight, and although Kane Hames was saying, he's had no effect on the play, I'm sorry. Nah, look, you're offending. The rules state you are not allowed to advance if you're ahead of the kicker, and he keeps advancing ahead of the kicker. And it's just like, and then Hames goes, he stopped. He never stopped. He slowed down only because he was looking to see where his teammates were so he could maintain a line. And that's the thing, right? So when Kane Hames is saying he hasn't affected play, you've always affected play if you're doing something like advancing whilst you're ahead of the kicker, because you're helping to get that defensive line set before it should be set. So realistically speaking, no, he has gained an advantage. He needs to be put on side or etc. Or the the receiver has to run the 10 meters before he can advance. But as Aaron said, I have to say, after all the bagging that was done of the refs, I have to say, apart from obviously the stated final penalty, it was a pretty well reffed game. I thought there was they did pretty well tonight.
I was about to say,
Mitch Brown, sorry, but how many times do you have to be warned before you learn? It
was crazy, wasn't it? Surely after the first time you sort of think, okay, I'll just wait for the kicker to put me on side, but he kept doing it. Weird.
Yeah, such soft penalties, aren't they? Those sort of ones where you're actually being told, whether it's at a ruck situation, keep your hands off the ball, and if you have to be told 2 or 3 times, and in the same way as Mitch Brown, I mean, so that would have been a first to have seen a penalty, a guy getting a yellow card for basically advancing. But listen, on the officials, I thought they were fantastic tonight. Yeah, there was probably maybe a bit of a line ball on one of those breaks, but boy, when you've been sort of culpable yourself for giving away your referral for what I thought was an absolute nothing.
Stupid. That's a stupid captain's call, that one. That was a stupid captain's call. It was really, it wasn't anything really malicious to go after in that. It was a wasted, that's what you would call a Tim Southey referral.
Oh, dearie me. That's the Highlanders, they had opportunities to win this game with their kicking, and the Chiefs had the opportunity to win this game with tries in that first half, because at least 2 or 3 times they got right down to the Highlanders line just to lose control of the ruck. Either the ball was squared out on the side or they were holding on, and you're thinking, they just weren't getting the support players quite right once they got to the line. Now they looked like they're pretty good at retaining ball before then, but then it all went pear-shaped. So 10-5 at half-time, or 5-10 at half-time, when finally Damon McKenzie actually got a kick over on the buzzer. The second half, again, a lovely try by Aaron Smith. Frizzell hitting a great line. And we saw some of the All Blacks step up tonight. Frizzell hit a line. Anthony Leonard-Brown, we saw him hit a line later on when it was, and it was very much a, that was like Jacobson to Anthony Leonard-Brown. Oh, sorry, it was D-Mac Jacobson hitting, Anthony Leonard-Brown hitting the line with Brad Webber in a support line for the try. And you're like, yep, okay, that's the key players of the Chiefs all standing up to get that try, to give them that 10-point lead. You think at that point, I thought it was done and dusted, to be honest. I couldn't see the Highlanders scoring and not just giving a score back, because they would just, in that second half, they would score just fall asleep for 2 minutes.
Yeah, but those little changes, bringing Josh Ioane on, like we said, all of a sudden gave them a little bit more spark, and all of a sudden they started playing some rugby through the middle. We saw a really good break from Scott Gregory. Probably just didn't quite look around for his support, and that could have been a straight run in. And little things were starting to happen, and I always thought they were a bit of a chance. And I must admit, right near the end, I actually thought they had the momentum of the game, but I think you might have chucked in a message there. Really, really poorly set up for the drop kick at the time. First of all, you got your drop kick specialist in Mitch Hunt there, but you decide to throw it almost back to the 40-metre mark to Josh Ioane. But more importantly, I thought if they still kept a lot of phases together, they would have got across the line. But to me, guys, I think the right team won tonight. I know that sounds a little bit weird, but I just thought the Chiefs, especially after the first half, I thought they were the better team. There was that early try just after halftime. But I thought for a good period of that second half, the Chiefs had sort of control of that game without really shutting the door.
Oh yeah, I'd have to agree. I mean, like you sit back now and you sort of think about it, and it did feel like the Chiefs were the dominant. Well, dominance probably a bit over the top, but basically what you're saying, they seem to have the better parts of the game, and really they just weren't converting some of the opportunities they were getting. They lost someone like Quinn Tupaia, I think around, was it at halftime, basically?
Yeah, so halftime,
sort of thing. Now, that was quite a major loss to them, but what they lost in Quinn Tupaia, Alex Nankerville actually brought his own game, which actually helped the Chiefs as well. And I thought it was different to what Quinn Tupaia would do. But, sort of Alex Nankerville nicely added some nice touches that sort of really got, when there was nothing on, and he'd just basically get that half metre or metre that got the Chiefs going forward, and they were able to take advantage of that.
Yeah, talking about this, sort of the first half, the Highlanders should have been building scoreboard pressure with those kicks that had missed. In the second half, as you say, the Chiefs definitely were the better side. Unfortunately, they had one key thing that was letting them down: their line out. When everyone jumps in the air and Hooker isn't even looking up yet, you're like, boys, seriously, you got it totally wrong.
Well, on that one, Paul, and the line out jumper looks at Bradley Slater and sort of like shakes his head. It wasn't, I mean, like, Bradley Slater is a shocking line out thrower. I mean, every time he's come on late for the Chiefs, and there's an obvious reason why he's come on, because he simply can't throw the ball into line out. But when the line out jumper shakes his head at him, and it's like, dude, he had the ball down at his knees. What were you doing jumping?
Yeah.
This is like he wasn't even ready to throw the ball in. So you can't blame Bradley Slater for that stuff up. It was actually the jumpers or the lifters that actually got that one wrong.
Miles wrong. Yeah, so the Highlanders, the Chiefs lost 4 lineouts, 69% really. That's way below. So they didn't have that set piece to launch off. 14 turnovers by the Highlanders. I mean, seriously, if you turn the ball over that often, you aren't going to score many points. It's as simple as that. And so that's where you kind of got to say they've lost the game there. They just couldn't keep hold of the ball to get through and score tries, which they deserved. Although no, they didn't deserve them because they turned the ball over.
Just on that, Paul, I mean, like, we've said that the refs actually had a fairly good game tonight. I thought, we've all agreed on that, really. What you'd have to say, the two teams actually technically had a shocker. We've talked about the line out, for example. And when we talk, Steve mentioned the 2 drop kicks, that both teams had opportunities at drop kicks to win the game. And it's like, when you look at where they're setting up in the middle of the posts, right? So whether it's 40 out or whether it's 22 out, they're setting up in the middle of the posts. Now, both of them were actually right foot kickers. You actually want to set up to the left of the upright, so you can hook that ball round. So that's a technical issue, that they should not be making that sort of error when they're looking to win the game. That should be saying, okay, this is where the ruck needs to be set. This is where our first 5 needs to be standing, and hit him, and he's in the right spot to be having a shot at that best chance to get a drop kick over. But when you're in the middle, or I think Damien McKenzie was even a little bit right of centre, you're setting yourselves to actually hit that ball to the right of the goalpost, which is exactly what Damien McKenzie, his was close. Josh Ioane's was way off.
Never. Josh Ioane's looking at it. That's okay. I'm exaggerating, but to me, if you're kind of watching it, that's hitting the corner flag. That's not going.
It's hitting the corner flag. And just on that technical side of it, last year these 2 teams went down to the wire in the Tupperware container. Bryn Gatlin, hitting that drop kick on that situation. And after that game, they talked about how they actually did practice for a last-minute drop kick. Bryn Gatlin talked about it, right? You have to think, again, what Steve mentioned. Why is Josh Ioane taking the drop kick? Again, these are little technical matters that you sort of be saying, who's taking that drop kick? Mitch Hunt's taking the drop kick because he's our drop kick expert that wins games on the hooter. And that's who should have been taking the drop kick, and they should have been setting up in the right position in the field to give them the best shot at getting it over. So, for professional players, disappointing technical execution.
Yep, no, I totally agree with you on that one. But I did see the difference in Tony Brown, coach side here. We saw the Highlanders pulling off what you call a set piece move off a ruck, whereas you quite often see, and this was, I guess, one of the things we talked about on the Driving Maul show last Tuesday evening. Don't forget, folks, you can join us at 8 p.m. every Tuesday for the Driving Maul show. We talked about sides just doing 1-3-3-1 and just basically being very robotic, whereas you saw there that the Highlanders could pull out different tricks after several phases, and which gets the defence thinking, which is always a good thing. If you can make the defence think, you're onto a you're onto a good thing. Go Willie says, yeah, that's he doesn't agree. He thinks it's a Saders thing. It's not a Landers thing. It's a different
Colonel Sanders.
But there we go.
It's a Colonel Sanders thing.
Colonel Sanders. I would have had, okay, sure, Mitch Hunt had a shocker off the tee, but I'd still have had him taking that drop goal.
I just want to say, talking of players, I think, talking about players that had good games, but, even though he was on the losing side, I actually thought Frizzell just had a phenomenal game tonight. It's just, that's the form that he had when he won that black jersey. That, he made the advantage line and more pretty much, I think, every time he touched the ball.
We had a chat about him the other week where he was trying to force things, and he didn't seem to be forcing them tonight. I think that was a difference. He was still making all the runs and getting involved, but he wasn't trying to force that ball.
It was actually the Blues game down there, or was it up here? I can't remember which one, but it's the Blues game where he was basically he was trying to win the game on his own. But yeah, you're right. Tonight he was he got it right. But not only did he get it right, but he's actually, as I said, he the ball in contact. I can't remember whether he scored the try or he set up the try. Was that one off Bryn Evans, and he takes that short ball and and Bryn Evans did a clever thing in that play. He actually takes the inside defender out because he turns his back to him, which means he creates that block. So the inside defender has to take Bryn Evans, can't move on to Frizzell, and Frizzell takes that line And realistically speaking, because he's so close to Bryn Evans, the outside defender can't get his arms around him effectively. So it was actually very cleverly executed, that play, to get that go forward. As I said, I can't remember if he scored it or whether he passed it off to score the try.
He passed it off that, but to
Aaron
Aaron
Smith.
Smith. But you got to say the timing of that pass was perfect,
Yep.
as you say.
Timing was perfect. The execution, the body positions, and everything, worked really well.
I was about to say on Bryn Evans, I gave him a bit of a hard time for making the Highlanders squad. Originally, I thought, well, maybe they should be looking at a younger player, but boy, got to eat a bit of humble pie over the last 2 or 3 weeks, because he's been really, really good, especially with his aerial skills as well. A really good line-out source, and actually, it locked. The Highlanders have been going all right. Paddy Parkinson, I thought, was good again. I was a bit concerned when he went down. I think in a bit of a heat, but listen, Bryn Evans, man, gets a real tick in the box.
Yep. Oh, yeah. Oh, look, I can see where you're concerned. I mean, like when you look at the first couple of games he played, but possibly off the bench, he's like, oh my God, what are they doing picking Bryn Evans? But no, I think you're right. And those last couple of games in particular, his experience, and he's lifted his game. Obviously, maybe it was just a matter of the fact of getting game time on the paddock, right? And but he's definitely starting to deliver what he did years ago, and he's got the experience to boot.
We talked about Josh Ioane, but Josh Ioane, he comes on, 10 carries, 103 meters. Next best for his team is Mitch Hunt with 53 meters. He's made like twice as many meters as pretty much anyone else in his team. The best of the Chiefs was Dane McKenzie with 75 meters. Yeah, I mean, Josh Ioane came on and as you say, changed the game for them.
With Josh Ioane,
he also made 10 tackles as well. He was
with Josh Ioane, it can look like he's running across field at times. He does seem to run laterally quite a bit, but the one thing he does do when he's running that lateral lines is that he seems to be able to link up or to put the players into the holes and get that pass out to the guys running into the holes. And that's, I think, again, Stephen, you're alluding to this up front in the terms of that. That's what happened when he came on. Even, it also gave Mitch Hunt a little bit of freedom where he could go spotting those holes, and then you just wait for Josh Ioane to pass that ball off to him. And then,
And go Willie in the chat say that Tony Brown needs to lock in his back line and stop tinkering. Look, I think that's a bit harsh. We lost a player injured this time. They had players who, for disciplinary reasons, actually had to be dropped last weekend. Yeah, I'm not sure that he's had enough. He's had the opportunity to lock in his back line.
I think Scott Gregory, though, is he's worth persevering with at number 12. I think he did a good job at 12.
Yeah, Scott played 10 or 12 at Whangarei Boys High School, and he was very good carrying footballer there. And the best football I've actually seen him play for Northern is when he's actually played centre. But once again, it's one of those situations where coaches decide to turn a footballer who is probably a bit better, closer to the action, into an outside back, because to me Scott looks lost when he's either playing for a fullback, especially in the same way the much maligned Michael Collins, who was a very good schoolboy midfielder for Otago Boys, once again brought to Auckland and turned into a fullback by JK, and you kind of wonder to yourself, what pictures are these guys looking at?
Oh, look, I mean, you almost with Michael Collins. I mean, he's sort of a bit of Conrad Smith about him in terms of he's an intellectual player, highly intellectual player, right? The sad thing for Michael Collins is that he's just lacking the yard of pace.
Yeah, and it's got showed up, especially at super level as well. Not so much at NPC level, but you can actually still be a smart midfielder that day. I mean, Conrad Smith didn't have top end pace. We must remember that.
Yep.
Scott Gregory, what he needs is to actually have runner games in one jersey.
Yeah.
Because he's played 12, 13, 14, and 15. He just needs time in one jersey to settle in there on that one. Anyway, boys, I think that's wrapped up the game.
We should talk about the Chiefs, though, shouldn't we? They did win the game.
All right, what do you want to say about the Chiefs then?
I don't know. I just say we should talk about them. I don't know what I'm going to say about them.
Look, I just say, for me, it was their big players turning up. When you got your Anton Browns, your Dane McKenzie's, your Webbers, it was these guys stepping up, which is which to me is what made it for the Chiefs. Gregory is the Havili of the Landers. Oh, I think you're overstating it slightly there. Go, Willie.
Steve's going to agree, eh, Steve?
But yeah, so for me, the important thing for the Chiefs there was that those guys were running the show. As you say, a shame that they lost Fire.
Quinton
Fire. Yep.
There, but yeah, those players stood up, and look, they need it because look, they've got a very young locking pairing here.
Just
so they need their guys to control, to actually take the game by the scruff of the neck and control it, which is what those that Weber, DMAC, and Anton Brown axis did. There's a few comments have been on Twitter and stuff about Trask, and I think Trask is taking a while to settle in at this level. I
actually thought that Trask, I agree, he's taking a while to settle in, but today he actually showed signs of doing that. He actually had some good touches, and he's starting to obviously feel a bit more comfortable there. But no, I just want to go back to the locks. I think the locks for the Chiefs, when you think about how young they are, kids, right? They're kids. And at the beginning of the season, no Brody Retallick is like, the Chiefs are going to struggle big time. But those two in the second row are stepping up big time. And, I think it goes well for the Chiefs. If it doesn't work out this year, look, in the next 2 years, they're going to have two guys that are going to have awesome amount of experience, and they're going to be young, and they're very good footballers in those positions.
And playing with Brody Retallick next year.
Yeah.
And news from Wayne Smith is that Brady Retallick is in the form of his life at the moment.
Yeah, Paul, I was about to say the other thing we shouldn't forget. The Chiefs actually started the season really, really poorly, but that's their third win on the bounce. Obviously, not discounting the bye that they had last week. So there's a bit of confidence. They go back to Hamilton next week, next Saturday night against the Crusaders, and they must be. Tell you what, they must be chomping at the bit.
The only thing I think, look, I mean, they got to go with a bit of confidence. I think the only thing that they still got to be a bit concerned about is their scrummaging, and Bradley Slater's throwing in. They're really hesitant to sub him on towards the end of the game. He's probably come on a little bit earlier recently, but geez, I mean, they're really hesitant to throw him into the game early.
Boy, if they can knock over the Crusaders next week, boy, they put themselves in with a chance, because the following week they play the Hurricanes at home. Very, very winnable game.
Very winnable.
And they will come to Eden Park, and we don't know how that's going to play out for the Highlanders. Obviously, they'll have to sit back and regroup and get ready for the Blues, and that all makes it very interesting, Paul. So, how does that table look?
So yeah, I will be at the Chiefs versus Crusaders game next weekend. Bring your post-match reaction from that one. So the table currently has the Crusaders on 18 points, the Blues on 14, the Chiefs now in third on 12, the Highlanders on 10, and the Hurricanes on 5. Obviously, with the Crusaders Hurricanes to come tomorrow. Right, and we'll be wrapping up everything from Super Rugby at 8 p.m. tomorrow on Sunday. So do join us for that. We'll go through the Super Rugby AU and both Super Rugby Aotearoa games. And Stephen and Ashwin, thank you very much for joining me. And have a great evening, folks.